See which way you rode, Evans?
Like they were headed to Bisbee.
Hands up.
22 robberies, over $400,000 in losses.
Y'all notice he didn't mention any of the lives I've taken.
We will have Ben Wade convicted and hanged, and we will pay to make it happen.
I'll come.
So, boys, where are we headed?
Taking it at 3:10 to Yuma day after
Hey,
tomorrow.
welcome.
Should have told him that.
Today we got, I got 3 guests on this episode. I've never had 3 guests before. So we're going to see how that goes. It should be a lot of fun. We're going to be talking about a Western movie from 2007. I think it's from 2007. Maybe one of you guys can correct me.
Correct.
So we got Ja, internet legend Ja. Howdy. We got Brett Cain making his second appearance, I think, on the show.
Honored to be back.
Welcome, Brett. And we got first timer Steven from the swamps of Florida.
Yeah, you guys are gonna find out what performance anxiety is all about.
All right, cool. Welcome, guys. This should be pretty fun. Real quick, do you guys have anything to plug? Brett, I'm sure you do. I know you got a podcast. Maybe you got a book or something.
Oh man, yeah. Thank you for the space. Yeah, I've got Ironside podcast. It's available on all the major platforms, and got a couple books, and they've actually been compared to my favorite Western author, Louis L'Amour. And yeah, you can look those books. Just look up my name. They're Whiteout and Out by Night. But
I'll link them.
Oh, awesome!
I'll link them in the notes here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm glad to be back.
And for anyone listening, I put this show up on SoundCloud, YouTube, and for some reason I put it on a site called Rumble. I mean, I don't know anyone who uses it except me sometimes, but I think Peter Thiel owns it or invested in it. So maybe if Peter Thiel hears this, he can invest in this show. I don't know. But anyway, so if you're listening on SoundCloud, but you prefer YouTube, I have the show there too. And I'll link all of that. All right. So today we were going to be talking about 3:10 to Yuma, and just wanted to, I think, Brett, I know you'd seen this movie a long time ago, probably back when it came out, because I know you're already a fan.
Yeah.
But Steven and John, is this movie new to both of you?
No, I saw it back when it came out. I rented it, and I really liked it, but I forgot all about it until you brought it up again.
Were rentals all on DVD by that point, or was this on VHS?
I don't know, man. I torrented it.
Oh. That's a form of renting.
I just didn't want to say that, but
you borrowed it. You just borrowed it.
That's right.
But you did see it back, like you torrented it back in the day.
Yes.
Nice. And Steven, is this a new one for you?
So I saw it later than when it came out. I saw it a few years ago, and then I'm around a lot of old people during the day, and so they will keep it on INSP and other local channels that show just Westerns all day. And so I'm becoming a huge fan of like Bonanza and Gunsmoke, and I just love the Western now. I appreciate it more now than I used to. And so now I've like decided I need to go watch all of John Wayne's catalogs, even though it's all basically the same character. But yeah, I decided to watch the old one and then catch up and watch the new one again.
So in prep for this, I did not watch the old one, but I know at least 2 of you did. I'd love to hear maybe a quick sort of review of just the old one, not comparing it to the new one, but just some thoughts on the old one.
Oh, I've got opinions if you want them.
Yeah, let's hear it. And yeah, let's hear it.
Joe, you were the one that watched the other one, correct?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but he's more of a pussy in the first one, right? Like he's just a bigger loser.
He is. Yeah, you can tell that his family really is disgusted by his kind of cowardice.
Like there's no reason for it either, just that he's sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, he's kind of spineless. Well, when he didn't stop the stagecoach robbery, they were like, "Why the heck didn't you stop that robbery?" And it's like, what is he supposed to do? It felt a little bit over the top.
Well, not only that, but I guess we can throw away spoiler alert with the podcast talking about it, but there is no need for them to be there except for I just want to live here. It's not like in this one where the kid is sick. They make a mention of there being a dry climate with the same scene with the whore. I'm sorry, waitress. So he really is just sorry and is stubborn. Like the last scene where he says, "I'm not stubborn." Well, no, the first one he really is just sorry, dude, and they're all waiting for him to stop being a loser.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got that same feeling. Yeah, let me see. I've got some notes on this actually. So I think that they were being really hard on him. His family was, as kind of as a plot device, because in the original film, his wife comes to contention to apologize for kind of being such a witch to him. And she, that's kind of part of that film. So I felt like they kind of built that up a little bit just so that to give her an excuse to go to contention, which, she doesn't do in the remake.
Yeah, that was kind of dumb because she knows that there's a firefight happening and she's just riding up all dolled up on her white horse. And yeah, like I said, I've got opinions on it, but that's not what this one's about. But it's still a good movie. However, the dynamics are different, definitely different.
Oh, for sure. The theme song was phenomenal on the original, like that they played at the beginning, at the end.
Right. Oh, I love that.
And the shots, even though it was black and white, there's the big panoramic shots of the desert were beautiful. And I feel like they kind of missed out on that in the remake. You could see the scenery, but they didn't focus on it and kind of use that as another character, which they could have done.
That's a good point. I hadn't even considered that. James Mangold, obviously great director, but very up close and personal. We get a lot of those close shots, of people's faces. Yeah, that's an interesting point because we only get a couple far away scenes, when they're seeing the posse or the gang riding up.
I think that's kind of a sign of old Westerns, though. Like, not, I know I listened to the Hell or High Water one after y'all and watched it, and I still consider that a Western. Like this is obviously a Western, but I feel like Westerns before the scenery was part of the movie, whereas, and like Josh said, it is almost a character of it, and they have to give it time to really take it in, and that's not really a thing you do anymore. It seems like.
I think back then, it was there was a lot more novelty to seeing the Western landscape, because if you were, if you lived in like Baltimore or something, it's conceivable you'd never go to West Texas or Utah or Arizona or something. So to like see these landscapes in a movie was a bigger selling point of the movie.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Do you know where the old one was filmed? I know the new one was New Mexico.
I don't. It was probably same area. Somewhere in the Southwest for sure.
I want to know if Yuma is actually really a shitty jail for him to escape twice.
Yeah, it's funny. We had a guest on the Ironside podcast, Eli Crane, well-known guy who's a Navy SEAL, and he's running for Congress in Arizona, and he actually grew up in Yuma, and I guess there's just like nothing there. So I can imagine it was Although I don't know if that's the quality of the jail, or lack thereof, so much as it's the skill of Ben Wade that he was able to escape from it. I mean, obviously it's not Alcatraz, but
yeah, frontier jails probably just were bad in general.
Yeah.
And then, hey, John, did you read the short story? I saw you linked it.
I did. Yeah, that was interesting. It was from, I think, 1953 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to mention this. This is really funny. It was originally came out in this dime store novel, or not dime store novel. This like dime store collection of stories, that they used to sell back then. And at the very beginning of this 310 to Yuma from 2007. The young son, actually the older son, is reading a dime novel book. So I thought it was kind of an interesting throwback to that. But and the story, the short story, does not have his family in it. In fact, he's the sheriff or the marshal. I can't recall.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was just a really short, brief thing where he's taking the guy to the prison, and that's it.
All right, so I think you guys have all heard some of these episodes I do. Is anyone not familiar with this Rotten Tomatoes score prediction thing I do?
I purposely avoided it.
Oh, great. So what I do is I just have you guess what you think the critical response and the audience response based on the Rotten Tomatoes averages would be for this movie. So, Brett, I'll have you go first.
Man, I'd have to say, I bet this was pretty well received. I would think critically, I'd have to say 78 or right around there. And I bet audience 87 at least.
That was 78, 87?
Affirmative.
All right, I'm just writing them down. I'll track all your scores. Okay, Ja, you go.
Oh man, so these two guys are fan favorites, right? So it's got to be high for the audience score. I don't know, man. High 80s, maybe low 90s. I don't know.
I'll put you down for 90 critic score.
Okay.
And then that was
no audience. Yeah,
that was your audience guess. Do you know what would your critic guess be?
Probably not as high. I guess that might be in the high 70s.
I'll put you down for 78. And then, Stephen, what do you think?
So I'm not very good at judging movies like this. I'm way too optimistic. I'm very easy to please. I have a low bar to clear to amuse me. So I'm going, if people are like me, I'm going the audience 94.3.
They don't, just at FYI, they don't break into decimals, so I'll stick it at 94.
Give it a 94.6. That way we round up. We'll go 95.
Okay, 95.
And then critic. So I don't know if this is cheating or not. Well, probably not. I'm thinking I'm the kind of guy that will Google like good Westerns just to see, like, instead of scrolling on Netflix, like I'll do a genre or something every once in a while, and it's always in the top like 5. That's not saying a lot because the new True Grit is on there, and it's absolute garbage. But
oh, you don't like The Dude?
I don't. No, that's the old one. It's the new one with The Dude. Yeah,
Bridges is The Dude. Yeah,
it took me I think that was the first Bridges movie I'd ever saw, and I didn't know he talks like that for real. So that put me off to start with. I'm gonna go with 83 because there's not really anything that can be controversial in this.
Okay. All right. So the actual score was 89 critics. They loved it.
Oh, wow.
And 86 audience. So Brett was closest on the audience because Brett said 87. But Stephen was closest on the critics because Stephen said 83 and it was 89. Critics loved it. Unanimously, critics and audiences loved it.
But I didn't see many people of color and all the other hot button things.
They would have died.
It was 2007, right?
Oh,
So
dang it! Yeah,
that was only that was only 15 years ago.
There were
But
plenty of Chinese, and
They
that
did make
that
a
guy,
reference.
yeah, the guy Zeke is like, we need to get some, uh,
He
some
was very
African
cautious.
Americans.
did he say the word?
He said, yeah, he did.
So he used the
And
kind word.
yeah, there were plenty of Apaches in there. We had the Mexican sharpshooter.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I had to look up what coolie was. I've never heard that in my life.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was a real diversity is our strength movie. This was a very diverse movie. I was listening to some other review of it. It was this very this very precious podcast. I won't even name it because I don't want to make fun of them, but they were bad at reviewing movies. But yeah, they were like, yeah, there's some Apaches in the movie, but only for a minute, and they get killed. Like that was just like really, that was a sin, like a movie sin or something. I don't know. It was, like, well, the Apaches started shooting at him. They had to kill him.
So it's like killing the dog in John Wick.
Yeah.
You just can't do it. Just don't kill the Apache.
Yeah. No Apaches were harmed in the making of this film.
Oh, dude, you just brought up a great thing I remembered. I read about this. The first day of shooting this film, a horse died.
That's right.
Yeah. So I guess it ran. They weren't handling it right or something, and it ran into a camera, and they had to put it down.
The internal review or external review, they had like an animal rights group come in to review it, and I think they said that the horse had received like conflicting training, like it had been taught under like two different schools of horse training, and it wasn't like the rider wasn't like factoring that in and ran into a thing. And the rider got severely injured too.
So did they not get that no animals were harmed at the end of the film?
I guess not. They had to euthanize the horse on the spot. They could not get that badge of honor at the end of the movie.
So did they put a real bullet inside one of the Colts?
Yeah, thankfully Alec Baldwin was on set.
Oh.
he just shot that horse.
Man, I shouldn't laugh about that. The first time that I saw this movie, I remember this distinctly, and this was before we all had smartphones. I was in high school, and a couple buddies and we went to the movie theater on Saturday, and we started watching this film, and it started getting really inappropriate. I turned to my friends and I said, I can't watch this movie. So I got up and left the theater and just went to the next theater. I didn't even look what it was on. And I walked in the middle of 310 to Yuma. I'm like, man, this is an awesome movie, because I'd always loved Westerns. And, the next day I had church, and I felt good for walking out of the bad movie. And then as a bonus, I got to see a really cool movie. So this movie means a lot to me.
What was the bad one?
Man, I can't even remember the name of it.
I'm gonna look up like what was showing at the same time.
Yeah,
I'm gonna reverse engineer this.
Yeah, it had Clive Owen and
Is that Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels?
No,
that was before 07.
Clive Owen, 2007,
and it was
September.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what movie it was. It was one where he like is protecting a baby, and
we'll figure it out. This is something I like to do, because these shows don't get any comments. So if anyone's listening, if anyone is inclined to prove us wrong or find out something that we missed, please leave a comment. Tell us what we didn't know.
I think No Country for Old Men and The Assassination of Jesse James both came out at the same time as this.
Oh, really? Interesting. I haven't seen either of those.
Oh, Brett, you've got to see. You'd love both of them. Like, they're both that. I was as good as 310 is. I would say both of those are better.
Nice. Yeah, I want to read No Country for Old Men first, but yeah, I definitely need to see that. And the movie I walked out of also had Paul Giamatti, so that might make it easier to track.
Yeah,
down.
we're gonna get this. We have a crack team of internet people who are gonna figure this one out. Yeah. Yeah, I think this one they rushed this one to get it out to beat the Jesse James and No Country for Old Men, because I think they knew those other two movies were projected to be bigger films, so they got this one out first just to see if they could capture some of the box office, which, by the way, was pretty modest. I mean, I think it was considered kind of a success for like because I think the market wasn't really sure at the time how new westerns would do, but this cost $55 million and made 75, I think, or like somewhere in the 70s, which is not a huge win, but all right.
Yeah, that's interesting, especially like new westerns, because I know Open Range came out a little bit before that, with Robert Duvall and Kevin Costner, and I like that movie, but I don't expect that it did very well.
Yeah, I'm not even familiar with it. And then something I like to check in on is like awards. This did not really, I don't think really won any awards. Maybe.
Oh, really? I thought it did. I know it got nominated.
I guess I just mean Oscars. I don't think it won any Oscars.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I was pretty sure that it at least got nominated. I would Ben Foster too. I think definitely got nominated for Best Supporting Actor, and it's kind of cool to see him again. We obviously heard about him a lot in your episode on Hell or High Water.
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking at it now. The film received 2 Academy Award nominations: Best Original Score and Best Sound Mixing. Those are kind of like also ran categories. They're not,
That's weird. I do not remember the score standing out as being great.
Me neither. And I told myself I would listen to it, and it never really grabbed my attention.
And I actually I pulled it up on Spotify and listened to it, and it's, I didn't blow me away. I didn't.
What I think was good about it is I really liked that we got the, kind of a prelude, a hint of the end song when Dan gets knocked to the ground, offers Hollander his wife's jewelry, and then he stands up and gets his sharps and is ready to go. Oh, I'm sorry, it was a Spencer, not a Sharps. His Spencer carbine to go and kill Hollander, like his oldest son had initially suggested, and it plays that a little bit, and he bursts into the saloon and yells out for the landowner, but then the theme kind of dies, and that picks up there at the end, and I kind of liked it. I really I don't know what it is about it, but I did enjoy the music. But those are the only 2 parts that I really remember the score standing out.
Yeah, it didn't really stand out to me, but I'm glad you're here because you know something about guns. I know how to shoot them, but I don't really know anything about them otherwise. I'm glad you know the names of those guns.
See, you heard the score when that happened. I just heard Batman.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because this was when Christian Bale was just, so big, because Batman Begins had just come out. Was this before or after Dark Knight?
I was watching Dark Knight as he was yelling out Hollander. I don't know what you were watching, but that's what I heard.
Where are the other drugs going?
Yeah. Batman Begins was 2 years before this, and then I'll look at Dark Knight.
Dark Knight was 2008.
Okay,
so Dark Knight was right after. Okay,
nice. Yeah, a lot of cool guns in the film, and I can definitely.
What kind of gun was the Hand of God?
That was a single action army.
Just like Army issue?
Yes. Yeah, and it was only in service, I think, in the 1860s, I want to say.
So that's the gun. That's Ben Wade's gun.
Yep, that's the hand of God. And there are a couple other people have them as well, I think.
Okay, so but Ben Wade never says he was in the army, right?
No.
But would the ownership of that gun imply that he was?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's certainly a possibility. Back then, Colt was making so many guns, and well, I mean, look at Will. He has a Navy model pistol, but that was pretty much what everyone had at that time. So I don't think so. He certainly would not have had to have been in the army to have had that gun. Although he did have a lot of interest. He asked Dan where he was stationed, and things like that. Yeah, so he could have been. And and I'm glad you brought this up. I'm sure we'll touch on this later, but I think it's so cool that Ben Foster's character, Charlie Prince, who is, obsessed with his boss, and it's kind of a throwaway line, but when he comes in and is disguising himself and tells the sheriff and the deputies that the coach was held up, and they leave, and one of the guys asks him, did you see the hand of God? And he's like, what's that? And it's like his pistol. Charlie Prince knows so much about his boss, but doesn't know the name of his gun. So like there is that separation between Charlie and Ben.
I just thought that he was playing dumb.
Oh yeah, maybe that could be.
I didn't even think about him being in the army or the military until y'all brought that up. But let's see, he was orphaned as a child. Seems like something that a lot of people who have broken homes kind of end up doing. And then also, how do you go from that to leading a bunch of men? It wouldn't surprise me if that's supposed to be a thing.
Well, and not that this is a history podcast, although movies take us in every direction. But I mean, this is, I think, 1884. Like what percentage of American men would have been in the Civil War?
Well, that's Dan Evans was, because he was with the North.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, good thoughts. I hadn't even considered that, man. You guys are thinking of all the cool stuff.
Mr. Butterfield asked him if he was with the North or the South.
Yep.
Yeah.
He says, well, we're Southern by name, but we're in Illinois, so yeah, come on.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too, as like we're kind of at that place again in America where no one's asking what side you fought for, but people are kind of asking, like, what side would you fight for? It depends where you live, but it is getting to that point where people don't really want to do business, or they're at least thinking twice about doing business with someone who might not be ideologically on their side.
Like a Ukrainian?
That's too funny.
Yeah, like we're at this place where it's like, it's increasingly common, right, that we're seeing things like, red hat's not welcome in this store, sort of thing. But yeah, I thought that was a nice touch, just like to show the recency of the Civil War, like, people asking each other what side they fought for before they engage in commerce.
Well, what do you think would have happened if he said the South? Do you think
they still would have hired him?
Yeah.
But they would have known he was a loser, as in he lost the war.
But he is a loser anyway.
Right, but they didn't know that.
That's true.
They're like, oh, at least he's on the winning side, and he's a sharpshooter. So,
and I really like his character, and obviously his foil is Ben Wade, who is this suave, whole, fat, just like he's super fast. He's men follow him. His oldest son, Will, admires him. Women are immediately attracted to him. but Dan is, I mean, he's actually cool. Like I like, and it's these subtle things throughout the film, you know, when they ride up on the scene of the holdup, which was an awesome scene in and of itself. And he tells his son, he's like, hey, you know, back away. And then they spot them and the gang rides up. And as they're riding up, he immediately spurs his horse and gets in front of his sons to protect him. And even with his, you know, one leg, he goes into the barn, gets the saddles, and then Will is trying to get, you know, sacks of feed. And he runs in and grabs his son and saves him and pulls him out. You know, so he is always doing these things, but his son has already formed, you know, his oldest son, an opinion of him and doesn't recognize that. You know, he's like, I'll handle this. No, you won't, you know. I'm never walking in your shoes, you know, all that kind of stuff, you know, that teenagers say.
That's something I enjoyed from this one that wasn't there in the original film. The original film, it was mostly the mom or the wife that was dogging on him all the time. I say all the time. We only got a snippet of it, but it didn't seem like the boys disrespected him as much as maybe they kind of were just going along with it. But this one, that 14-year-old, he cut him no slack. He hated him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he says, think you can keep your guns on him? And the boy answers, doing a damn sight better than you did.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, if my son said that to me, yeah, no.
Yeah, so this brings me to so I wanted to get your takes, like generally what you'd say the movie is about. And as preface to that, I found a quote from one of the writers of the film. It's really interesting. So I was watching an interview with Derek Haas, who was one of the writers. And he said that, you know, they watched the old one and they read the short story, but then they wanted to, their goal was, quote, tell the movie like a morality tale for the son's soul. How does a blue collar, and they were connecting it to modern day. And they're saying, how does a blue collar dad in America compete with ads and athletes where you have like a dad who's just trying to put food on the table, but you have kids who are worshiping some guy who's telling them the opposite of what their dad's telling them. That's kind of an approximation of his quote, because it was not that focused, but he's basically he's talking about like, and that seeing that quote changed the way I thought about the movie a little bit. That I kind of had thought the story of the son was maybe, I thought it was like the B plot or something, but it's really the A plot. It's really the main focus of the movie. And I like that comparison to modern day, where it really is tough and unfair that what like a modern father and a mother is up against, because there's just, you know, a million cultural influences trying to get them to worship the bad guy and trying to get them to follow the bad guy. And it's definitely relevant today.
Yeah, I really like that.
That's a good analysis. Really, the Dan is boring, right? I mean, I know, Brett, you just were kind of singing his praises, but he really is just kind of a boring guy doing his duty. And Ben, like, he's smiling, he's laughing, he's having a good time throughout the whole thing, even though he's, you know, going to Yuma. But it really does kind of show the contrast of those two personalities that, like, you know, it's not fun doing the right thing all the time. You know, maybe it's more fun being a cheat and being a thief and being a killer. But
and it's not fair. Well, I mean, of course, nothing is fair, but it's not fair to tell dads in like, you know, the modern era that it's not fair to tell them that it's not enough just to be like a good dad. Like, oh, you provide and you are a good person and all that. Like, that's not enough. Like, that's unfortunate, but true. That's just not enough. You also have to be, you also have to do all that, but in a way that makes your kids actually want to grow up and be like you. That's tough. That's a tall order.
Yeah, you got to be a bigger hero than all the big heroes around you.
I like that theme a lot more than what I thought it was. I thought it was more like fine. So the line that got me was where he said he was praying to God to give him a way out, and he never got one. And then all of a sudden, this is his way out. So he's throughout the whole movie, it seems like he's trying to figure out how to turn chicken shit into chicken salad. And so, he's got a farm with one leg. The bank sold it to him, but then they're like, we'll cut off your water supply. Oh, here's a drought too. And it's like, how much more can we pile on this guy? Oh, okay, now you have to move this guy and everyone's quitting on you. But yet he's determined to get everything right.
Yeah, I only looked at a few reviews, but I would not be surprised if there was many reviews that came at this from like a economic populist or even like a socialist point of view, saying like, oh, look how awful the world is, that it put people in these situations, both that it would put a working father in this position and a system that would incentivize or glorify bank robbers.
Oh, if I read that review, I'll kill myself.
Well, I'm not saying I saw the review, but
I'm sure it exists.
Yeah, I could anticipate that being out there.
Well, and one of the things that I thought of, and here's another layer. So this quote comes from a Travis McGee novel by John D. MacDonald, and that is, they were making a movie off of one of those books with Christian Bale starring as the main character, but he got injured in a chase scene across these boats, on a dock, and they never finished filming it. But this is the quote: "Integrity is not a conditional word. It doesn't blow in the wind or change with the weather. It is your inner image of yourself. And if you look in there and see a man who won't cheat, then you know he never will. Integrity is not a search for the rewards of integrity. Maybe all you ever get for it is the largest kick in the teeth the world can provide. It is not supposed to be a productive asset." And I think that's what Dan really had, and I agree, Dan is boring, he's mundane. He's not flashy, but he really resonated with me as a character. Because all these things that he worries about are things that I worry about. And I love that. And obviously Ben Wade has some interest in him. When they first meet, he kind of admires Dan for standing up to him and saying, "Those are my cattle. I want them back." And he gives him the cat, and then when Dan bursts into the saloon and the barmaid says his name, asks, "Do you want a drink, Dan?" And that's where he learns his name, remembers his name, has dinner with him, all these things. And so he grows to really like Dan, Ben does. And then when he's offering him, all this money, and Dan is sitting at the window looking out, and he pauses for a long time, and then he kind of snaps out of it and kind of laughs. He's like, "How are you going to do that? Like, people are just going to believe," he's like, "Are you going to like make a deposit in my name? Are you going to give me a banknote? How's that? You escape and I get rich." And I think that's the thing. He's got integrity. Sorry, I cut you off there.
No problem. On the integrity thing, maybe it was that scene. I don't remember where it was. I just wrote a note that at one part Ben like tells him, he's just like, he's like, "No one's looking. No one will know." And it's just like textbook Satan. Like that's like the thing you hear all the time, and the thing that you probably that everyone has probably felt tempted with.
Yeah, there were, I think, 3 different points that I noted in where he was tempted. He was trying to tempt him. When they see the storm clouds over Bisbee, Ben asks Dan, he's like, "You still need the $200? Because it looks like it's going to rain where he needs it to rain." And then later on, he's like, he offers him $400, then $1,000. When he says, "You mean we're still not friends, Dan?" And then the third time he's, like you just mentioned, when he says, "The boy's gone, hero. Ain't nobody watching no more. You know, you don't have to do this. You can run away." And
Yeah.
I totally just saw the whole, you know, the savior and the devil, that whole scene. I mean, he's tempted in the desert, right? When they see Bisbee from far away, it kind of looks like they're looking down on a kingdom, you know.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. And kind of tangential to that, Butterfield is like, "Hey, here's the $200. Like this is what you came for. I'm just going to give it to you, and we can walk away." And I like that he says like that's what the United States government gave him for his leg, $198.36. And he's like, they weren't paying me to walk away; they were paying me so they could walk away. And and that's interesting, especially when this came out, war wise, because we don't treat our veterans any better today, I think, than we did to the Civil War veterans. So I think that was definitely a cool part. And when he talks to his son, and I appreciate it because, obviously they're playing up, hey, here's a guy who's, who's got nothing, but he wasn't so self-deprecating, and he wasn't like ho-hum, and he wasn't a quitter. And I liked how he said to Will, he's like, "You got all the best parts of me, what few there are," but he said it kind of, with a little bit of chagrin, but not like putting himself down further. And when his wife said, "No one will think less of you," and he's like, "Nobody can think less of me." And that's interesting because I think Ben always held him in such high esteem. And one of the coolest things that I saw connected is that Charlie Prince, who worships Ben Wade, is someone who takes away the things that Ben Wade admires. When he comes up to him the first time, they're scouting out the stagecoach to rob, and Ben Wade is just drawing. He's drawing this picture of this falcon, and which, by the way, was an auger buzzard. Kind of looked like a peregrine falcon, but those are from Africa, I think, so they're not native to Arizona. And he's drawing that, and as soon as Charlie Prince rides up, it flies away, and he kind of like makes an expression like he's annoyed. And then he draws Dan later, because that falcon, Dan, they represent a different life, one that he doesn't have. Because I mean, and Ben talks about, Dodge City, money, women, guns, but I think he really admires what Dan has: sons, a home, a wife, those kinds of things. So the falcon and Dan represent a different kind of freedom.
Yeah, you I think you hit on probably most of it already there, but I did explicitly want to get into why does Ben like Dan when Dan is, by like on paper, Dan's a big loser and Ben's one of the coolest guys around.
I think it comes from when he talked to Hollander and said, "Have you ever read another book besides the Bible?" And he can tell that Dan is he boring in the movie? Yeah, but I wonder how much is that because of circumstance, and if it weren't for that, how interesting would he be? Because he's got, I don't know if it's just the integrity part of it, or the morals, but it seems like he's got more to him than just, all right, I'm going to kill everything that comes my way. Like could he have shot the people burning his stuff down? Yeah, he had a bead on him, it looked like, but he didn't. I don't know if it's self-control or what, but I think Ben found Dan interesting.
Yeah, it's certainly harder to do what's right, so he knows that Dan's a tough guy. I mean, deep down inside, he's the guy who's getting it done. He's the guy putting food on the table and raising a family and making a somewhat of a living out in the middle of the desert. And that's a lot harder to do, I think, than just, robbing people. So you got to admire that.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic that the movie introduces, where it's like the fact that Ben obviously respects him more than anyone else on screen, including his own gang. It's an interesting dynamic. You don't see. I can't really think of. I mean, there are a lot of movies where there's a good guy and a bad guy, and there is a sort of a professional respect between them. But this one had even more. This one was even like a deeper level, it seemed like, than I've seen in other movies. I can't think of something that is a good comparison.
I mean, he was rooting for him at the end.
Yeah, he cooperated to the point that he's helping him.
He even got on the train after he was shot.
But so here's the weird thing, where, and this is, I think, the probably the biggest flaw with the movie is that the end is kind of rushed, I guess, because you go from Ben choking Dan out, and then, and I want to get into this. Dan tells him kind of a sob story. Like, he tells him a story that should make him feel bad for, like, to get himself sympathy, and and to avoid dying. I would probably say something. I'd probably grovel to not die as well. But he goes from just about to kill him to being like, all right, I'll just help you. I'll basically turn myself in. And the movie ends, and it's like, from the choke out to like getting on the train is probably 10 minutes or something of movie time, or even less. So that's kind of to me, that's kind of where the movie, that's the thing the movie did the worst, I think, is that rushed ending. I still liked it, but regarding that sob story, what do you guys think about that? Like, Dan's an honorable guy, but if you're being choked out, is anything fair game, or is it kind of weird that he would do that?
That's a good question. And yeah, because I was thinking about that, and that's something that Mark, the youngest son, brings up at the dinner table, that his dad's a war hero and got wounded, and Ben asked him at the dinner table when he comes to cut up his steak, you mind me asking how you got that hitch in your step there, Dan? And then Byron McElroy, the Pinkerton, is like, don't tell him anything. And then, Mark shares that. And then he asks him again around the campfire how he got that injury. And then finally, when he's getting choked, he tells it. And I was trying to figure that out. And I wonder, they always say, before you die, your life flashes before your eyes. And I wonder if that was the thing that he remembered, because I mean, that was, an event in his life that kind of set the tone.
And maybe you understood this better than I did, but it wasn't clear to me if he had told his kids the true story, or if he had always held off because he knew that was like the last straw, especially for his older son.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't think he had it, at least not to Mark, because Mark, had this idea of him. But then again, he says, imagine telling that to your sons. And so maybe it had come out, or at least William knew. But I didn't see it so much as a sob story as him just like, oh, I'm going to die. I'll answer your question now. And also, this was what happened that set the tone for me, because then later when they're in the train station, and Stephen brought this up earlier about the stubborn part, where he tells him about Mark getting tuberculosis when he was 2, which is more of a sob story. And Ben Wade's like, why are you telling me this? So and he didn't ask that of him when he was choking him. So that was kind of an interesting dichotomy between those two stories that he told.
Something kind of an aside, but once when Dan told him that story, it was funny to me because didn't he say he was defending the Capitol?
Yeah.
Did he
So-
say? Did Mark say that?
I thought when Dan's getting choked out, he explains that he got injured defending the Capitol and he was like retreating, right?
Right.
So I just thought it was funny because it was like January 6th, like yet another casualty of January 6th.
Worse than the Holocaust.
They just keep coming.
I'm going to start watching movies with Brett more often to get all these insights that I'm not getting on my own, because I just thought that was another thing that made Ben like Dan is just that he was interesting about that kind of stuff.
You know, I viewed it as Ben has always kind of taken an interest in William, right? You know, he wants to teach him about Dodge City and, you know, converse with him and whatnot. And this sob story, you know, directly dealt with William and how he viewed his dad. And I think that's one of the reasons that Ben kind of turned around and was like, okay, you know, maybe I have a chance to kind of help this guy be a good, you know, hero to his kid.
Yeah, that's a good relationship there too, because the first thing Will says when he sees Ben shoot the Pinkerton and Tommy, one of his own men who messed up, he's like, wow, he's fast, you know, which is the hallmark of a great man in the West, was to be a fast draw. And then he's looking at him with this admiration at the dinner table. But when Will shows up, when Ben kills Byron McElroy and is about to escape, he shows up and has a gun on him, and Ben is talking to Will and says, "Oh, I don't think you're going to shoot a man you admire in the back of the head." And then he fires a round by him. And then Ben no longer talks to Will. He starts talking to Dan. He's like, "Dan, tell your boy it's over." Because I think like at that moment he realized that ultimately, obviously, Will doesn't like his dad and admires Ben. But like at that moment, he knows that he's going to listen to his dad, and he had to appeal to the father instead of talking directly to the son.
Yeah, I think later on he says, wow, I thought he was going to shoot me.
I don't know if the way that scene was filmed, but when he shoots the round past his head, doesn't it look like he's shooting it right into everyone else?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, he should have shot the other way, but yeah, just the way it was framed, I'm like, man. And that's another thing. Because all these, I like it, and they weren't heavy-handed with it, but for lack of a better term, hypocrisy that they show. You know, here you have Byron McElroy, who's this pious man who's never read any other book but the Bible, but he also massacred Indian women and children and is not a good guy. And then you have the Marshal Doan and he says, "Two of my best men," and they're absolute cowards, and they walk out. And then you have the railway people who are blasting through the mountains, talking about how lazy the Chinamen are, and they're just lounging around doing nothing, you know, and then they shoot willy-nilly into a tent with women and children. And, you know, so it's just like those things. Yeah, there was a lot of a lack of gun safety. But yeah, I think that was just one of those things. And I always pick up on things like that, and I shouldn't nitpick, but like in Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, there's a scene where in one cut, Sam's holding Sting in his left hand, and then the very next cut, it's suddenly in his right hand. You know, just things like that I pick up on, but it's not a reflection, I think, on the director. It's just those things that come. It's like a typo, you know, it doesn't change the story. Well,
and for anyone listening who's not familiar with Brett, which I doubt is possible, that if you're listening to this show, you already know who Brett is, but in case anyone is, you know, Brett's podcast and some of the work he does is about, you know, combat, hand-to-hand combat or you know, guns and swords and stuff like that. So that's why Brett notices these things.
So I've got a question, Brett. How realistic was it when the guy in the stagecoach who was pretending to be Ben points his gun out and shoots the guy like point blank, but misses him, or like he barely hits Charlie Prince in the neck, or maybe just his shirt.
Yeah, grazed his neck because he had some blood on his fingertips.
That was like point blank.
Yeah, and that was very, very common. I mean, it is hard to hit someone with a handgun. I mean, most people aren't good with handguns, even at 15 feet. So that was totally real, especially I think because he's shooting out of a window, moving target, even though he was coming closer. And I think he was very nervous because he's one man alone and the driver, just got shot out of his seat. So I think that was 100% realistic and also dramatic. I mean, I'm glad that it winged him. We also saw Dan get grazed in the forehead by an Apache bullet as well. So yeah, totally realistic in my mind.
I wouldn't have missed.
Yeah, Ja is.
I'm a sharpshooter,
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have hit him.
Something very important that we have to get into is Charlie Prince. I think at one point someone calls him Charlie Princess.
Yeah, Byron McElroy right before he gets gut shot.
So he's supposed to be gay, right?
I didn't see that.
Oh,
I don't think so. I never got that. I thought he was just kind of sycophantic and one of the kind of things like they almost made him dog-like and certainly Ben calls them, animals, but in the saloon when they walk in and just the way Charlie is hanging his head over the bar, it just reminded me of a dog. And so I think he is, but maybe I didn't see that. That's a distinct possibility.
I'm not.
So
go ahead.
They do call him Princess, and isn't he wearing like eyeliner?
Yeah, especially at least in the first scene, it did look like that. I was thinking maybe that's to fight the sun, like football players will do that under the eyes. But yeah,
so when
could be
when sort of that last sequence when Ben is helping Dan get Ben to the train, Charlie looks up he's looking up them on the rooftop, and he can kind of tell that Ben is cooperating. And there's one frame where it looks on his face, you can kind of see his heart break. And it's like, I think he's for Charlie, Ben is like kind of a dad figure, but he also seems in love with him. That's my read. That's kind of what it looked like to me, but I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit like, I don't know. I see my gaydar is maybe a little sensitive.
I saw it as a father figure, but then I saw that if he got typecasted that way, I mean, because it seemed exactly like his Hell or High Water character, and if he never played another character, I'd be fine because he does that really well.
Well, I think his Hell or High Water character is a lot more masculine, like a lot more has more masculine energy. He's less like bratty and more just like chaotic.
I just saw chaos. I didn't really see a brattiness to it when I watched it, I guess.
Well, he's coming out with another movie with Chris Pine here pretty soon and Kiefer Sutherland, which looks awesome. So we'll have to watch that together when it comes out. That's a really good point. I hadn't considered that. And when I think it's Sutherland, that kind of big mountain man looking guy says like, yeah, he made a mistake. He got caught, which is kind of funny because Ben Wade killed Tommy for making a mistake. And here he is getting captured and they're going to rescue him. And the guy, I think Sutherland is his name. He's like, we're not riding 80 miles back the other way. And then Charlie's like, well, you think you can do a better job leading this outfit? He's like, maybe. And he backhands him and aims his gun at him. He's like, you've forgotten what he's done for us. So yeah, maybe. I mean, he's certainly obsessed with him.
So
Yeah.
not that we should trust the internet, but I did a quick search. A lot of people seem to think he's gay.
Oh, all right.
I
Yeah.
missed that completely. Holy cow.
So, but you never know. I mean, sometimes
I think they want him to be
like
gay.
gay people will insert that other, like, will make
Gross.
up that characters were gay just to, like, to get some sort of whatever. But
That's why the critic score was so high.
yeah. Well, if any of my thousands of LGBT plus fans have some insight on this, leave a comment.
I didn't think like gay people were even invented in the Wild West.
You just wait till they get on to how the Romans were all gay.
I think that's the Greeks.
That was just to be friendly.
That never happened. That's a psyop.
That was just to establish hierarchy and male bonding.
That's funny. Oh, what I was going to say was really funny is that Will, he is thinking about his dad, and then he sees the drawing of his dad in the Bible. That was another cool thing, because the whole time Ben, who is, he is a killer and he is a thief, but he's always quoting the Bible. And, he asked Byron, have you ever read anything besides the Bible? And he's like, no need. And then it turns out like Ben has actually read the Bible and learned from it. And when he drew Dan in there, that was kind of the moment that Will was like, oh, like, I got to help. I think he had it confirmed what he said earlier. You're not all bad. So that's when he runs. And he uses the same trick that Ben Wade used to stop the stagecoach, which was driving the cattle, and that they ended up running over Charlie Prince and getting in the way and blocking the train so they could get out of there. And that's how Ben Wade did with their herd. So I thought that was kind of cool. He did learn something from his idol.
So when you say learning from the Bible, I kind of took it as him, I guess, spitefully learning, abusing whatever passages he could. Just, I thought he hated it because one, with the comment to Hollander, and then two, whenever he recanted the story of, or he told the story of his mom leaving him at the train station, and he just read the Bible for 3 days waiting for her to come back.
I don't know. I think he really did believe Proverbs 21:2 when he says, all a man's ways seem right to him, but the Lord weighs the heart. Like, that gives him an excuse to be the way he is, right? Because he doesn't mean to hurt people. His intentions aren't to cause pain. It's to survive.
Well, I think that's kind of like how Jesus said not to judge. So I'm going to go do this thing, and you're not supposed to judge me.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wish they had expounded on that, because, and I like these movies because, set in the Old West, because they do seem to feel at liberty to cite the Bible more freely than in a film set in modern times. And they talk about God, when the gang come, he's like, they're coming, sure as God's vengeance. But the interesting thing, and that leads me to believe that Ben Wade does believe, is that he calls his pistol the hand of God, which is also self-aggrandizing a little bit, because here he's got a picture of Jesus, or he's got the crucifix, a symbol of Jesus Christ, and he's using it to murder people. But also when the Pinkerton says, you're going straight to hell when you're hanged, and then when he says to him, oh, when I die, I'm getting sprung from hell. So it's another example, because Dan is not self-deprecating in such a way that's annoying, and Ben isn't devil may care in such a way that's annoying. It's almost like a much more controlled Joker, to use a Batman example, because he's not so chaotic that he is just going around causing destruction, but he really doesn't care. When he's washing his face, he says, generally, most people want to live. And he was willing to go along into a hail of bullets and is able to smile and laugh and kind of joke around the whole time when they hit the deck. And he's like, "You mind telling me the rest of your plan, Dan?" Because I don't think that he really cared whether he lived or died, and not in a suicidal way, but just in, kind of a nonchalant way. And the curse on his gun did prove to be true. Every single person who touched the gun other than him died.
So I wanted to jump to what I call just like a note dump. Anything we can kind of rapid fire, just like observations we had. We probably don't really have time to get into each of them, but does that sound good to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. One thing I thought was funny, when Dan says it's before he heads off, to take in Ben, he's at his house and he says to his wife, he says, he's tired of how his boys look at him and he's tired of how his wife doesn't look at him. The worst part about that scene is that she doesn't really protest or correct him. And he never gets really a resolution because, she never sees him again, alive. So it's that scene was pretty brutal in my opinion, because the way she responds, the audience to me can only really interpret that he's right, that she does not view him as much of a man.
Yeah. And when he also says, "No one can think any less of me," she doesn't contest that either. I think that is the saddest part of the whole movie. I mean, sadder than when he dies in the end.
The saddest,
Yep.
The saddest part is she got away with it. Because he's dead, she's rich, she's not going to have to struggle for what she did.
And, Ben is still on the loose. He's going to come back. And she was interested, right?
She ate that green eye stuff up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the worst part. She got away with it.
This is really tragic. And,
yeah.
In 3:11 to Yuma, or 3:10 to Yuma part 2, he comes back and the son joins his gang and he takes the wife.
I'm just hoping I missed a part where she touched the hand of God.
Yeah, that was really sad. But I liked that, at the end, Dan made sure that his family was going to be taken care of. He told Butterfield, he's like, "You're going to,
$1,000.
Yeah, $1,000. You're going to hand that $1,000 cash to my wife. You're going to make sure Hollander never sets foot on my land again. Then our water flows and take my son back." And I thought that was really cool. And
regarding the money, I looked it up. $200, which was his original contract, from then would be worth about $6,000 now. Just as an aside.
Nice, yeah, and at that time, like ranch hands would be lucky to make $40 a month. And they talked about how the Pinkertons were getting paid $18 a day. And there's a little sign on one of the eateries out there. It said meals 25 cents. And then obviously the other railway guys who were complained about the Chinamen, were talking about how some of them were wanting $40 a month.
Yeah. He says, if we could just train monkeys.
Yeah.
That kind of cracked me up.
Yeah. And we didn't really talk about, but the Doc Potter character, he was really fun. And
as soon as he said he pulled the Rick thing from Anchorman, I knew he was going to die. He said, "Did you see
what
me?"
did he say?
Well, because he said, "Did you see me hit him with the shovel?" And all I could see was Rick going, "I killed a man with a trident." And I was like, "Yeah, he's going to die now."
Yeah.
In the original, Potter was in it, but he was a drunk. He wasn't a doctor. He was a drunk. And he kind of has this story arc where he becomes a kind of a hero. And same thing, though. He dies, trying to do the right thing, just like this Doc Potter does, which I thought was pretty cool.
Another note I had, and we could spend a lot of time on this, but we'll cover it quickly. But apparently it was a little confusing the way I read it. Tom Cruise was either interested in playing the role of Ben Wade or they were trying to get him. I couldn't tell which one it was. But do you think Do you think it works as well, better or worse with Cruise in that role?
Better, a million times better.
You think it would have been better?
No. With Russell Crowe, it's infinitely better. Tom Cruise plays a good bad guy, like in that in Collateral, he was good, but I would not have bought it. I think Russell Crowe knocked out of the park.
How tall is Russell Crowe?
Good question.
Because I just can't take any kind of threat from a 5'8" man seriously.
Yeah, you don't want manlet villains.
He doesn't.
Yeah, he's 6 foot. Yeah, he's my height. He's 6 foot. So Russell Crowe is. No, I totally agree. I mean, yeah, I couldn't see it. That's one of the things I wish we could do with movies, like we could do with plays. I mean, you could do a play every single night with an entirely different cast, but movie is a lot more overhead.
Yeah, I don't have any good examples. Oh, here's a good example. Back to the Future. Part of it was filmed with Eric Stoll, who was more popular back then, and it wasn't working, so they swapped him out for Michael J. Fox. But that footage exists. Like, I would love to see however much of that movie existed with the other actor. Like, I'd love to see the same movie twice, just with different people.
Yeah. Also Kevin Durand, who played Tucker, played Little John with Russell Crowe. So that's kind of cool to see them in this film together as well.
I really enjoyed his character. I mean, yeah, but he was good at being a jerk.
Yeah, he's really good at that kind of bad guy role.
Why did he sing like that? Why did he sing with like
an Irish accent? Because it's an Irish song. Yeah, I think it's an Irish song.
It's not the accent. It's more just like he had it like it's like he tried to sing through closed teeth. It was very weird.
Yeah, I think he was just trying to annoy Ben.
Well, it annoyed me.
Is Wade an Irish name? I mean, maybe he was being racist or something.
Yeah, that could be. That's funny. I don't think it is.
I got a question for you guys. Did anyone else instantly recognize the bar maiden?
No.
Maybe I was the only one that had a crush on her from Hocus Pocus.
Oh, I never saw that.
Oh, was she in Hocus Pocus?
Yeah, she's the girl.
Wow, that's so funny.
Which is a very weird movie. If you go back, it's like a kid's movie, right? But like the whole theme of the movie is
devil
the
worship.
Kid needs to lose his virginity. Very, very weird kids movie.
Man, I don't think I remember that at all. It's so weird. Like I think I saw it when I was a little kid. I haven't seen it since. But
the real spell in Hocus Pocus is not realizing that Jessica Parker looks like a horse.
Yeah. That was the magic of that movie.
Yeah.
And there was like some comedic parts. I think like when the sheriff asks, Charlie, he's like, "Where are you from anyway?" And then like they kind of pause, and from around the corner, Ben looks at him like, "Oh, what's he gonna say?" And he's like, "Tom Conrad hired us to drive 1,000 head of cattle from Mexico," and it was just that was pretty funny. They had some good elements, and then Ben is so funny when he's like, "Can you cut that up for me? I don't like the fat and the gristle. I don't like the gristle at all." It's just there's some good stuff in there.
I don't believe that though. I bet people back then just ate the fat.
Oh yeah, totally. He was just like bugging him. I think.
Yeah, just being annoying.
Do you want to know the thing that bothered me?
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. The scene that it never really stopped bothering me was when Ben went to take a piss. That scene bugged me because I know that Dan knew better than to take his eye off, and Ben was facing the other way, but yet he kept not looking at him. It's like it's pitch black dark. You're in Apache land. That part is another part that bugged me too. So you already lost Hollander because you took, or was it Hollander or someone? No, you just lost the guy that got
McElroy.
stabbed. McElroy, he just got stabbed for taking his eye off of him.
Oh, that was Tucker who got stabbed, and McElroy was the one who got thrown off the cliff. Right. Hollander was the landowner.
Okay, that's right. I keep getting that mixed up. But everybody keeps taking their eye off him for a half second, and he just startled y'all, and then he's going to take a piss, and he's just kind of lackadaisical, and that's the only part in the movie where he's like that. The other one, whenever he tackles, you said Tucker, right? Yeah. When he tackles him, I mean, he just happened to land on it right, and you got to turn a horse around and all that stuff. But this is like very intentional. He's just not focusing. He's not focused on the job. So that part bugged me. And then when the Apache were shooting, they didn't kill anybody, did they? But they had light from the fire to see exactly where they were shooting, and they didn't hit anybody. But Ben was able to come up and shank them. I don't know. It just bugged me.
You ever hit a target drinking firewater? I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, and I think that was just to highlight Ben's prowess, because the Apache are, among the most fearsome warriors. Like most Indians, they didn't really favor fighting at night, and they had much worse guns in most cases, and the firelight people were further away, and they did manage to graze Dan. So, not that I'm an Apache apologist, but just for some things, I totally agree with him taking his eyes off, though.
Kind of one last thing, and Brett, I bet you're equipped to answer this, but aside from maybe just a sense of morality or like the Constitution or something, why not? I mean, like frontier justice, under like a frontier justice model, why wouldn't they just break Ben Wade's legs or something, or so he was unable to, after he kills one guy or after he kills two guys, why aren't you just like chopping off a hand or something?
Yeah, good question. I think, well, they had the doctor along who might have been able to help in a situation like that, but Butterfield, at least, who was kind of in charge, wanted him to stand trial before a federal court. And like, if we've seen True Grit, we know how lawyers can be. And I think that they would have, because obviously like Tucker, he's like, let's just, shoot him in the head. But I think at that, and it would have made for a less interesting movie. And they're having to travel over rough country, and anything like that could have compromised, even like breaking a leg. Oh, if we break it in such a way that there's an infection and then he dies, so I think those were all the considerations that they were taking.
All right. Anything else, guys? I have a minute or two left.
Dude, when he shot that dynamite in the guy's horse pouch, that was awesome.
He definitely showed that he belonged with the sharpshooters in multiple scenes.
Yeah, I love the movie. I highly recommend it. I could do without the girl from Hocus Pocus, but I think they're just trying to make Ben seem like the James Bond figure that he is.
That was in the original one as well. I think they're just a bunch of hoes.
That was great. And that was the last thing. Charlie spends all the time talking about things he hates. I hate posses. I hate Pinkertons. But, Ben was always saying like, I always liked you, Byron, so you talk about the things you like, not about the things you hate. It's just better to be positive.
Yeah, right. With that, be positive. That's the departing message here. Thanks for joining, guys.
Probably cheaper just to let me rob the damn thing.
See which way you rode, Evans?
Like they were headed to Bisbee.
Hands up.
22 robberies, over $400,000 in losses.
Y'all notice he didn't mention any of the lives I've taken.
We will have Ben Wade convicted and hanged, and we will pay to make it happen.
I'll come.
So, boys, where are we headed?
Taking it at 3:10 to Yuma day after tomorrow.
Shouldn't have told him that. Relax, friend. Now, if we get separated, I know where to meet up.
He's a killer, Daniel.
Then someone ought to have the decency to bring him to justice. I want to come with you. Well, you can.
What are you doing out here, Dan? You got a family to protect.
Don't talk to me like you know me, Wade. We ain't friends. I told you to stay home. I left home. You turn around right now.
Your boy ain't protecting you. He's following me.
You say one more word, I'll cut you down right here.
I like this side of you, Dan.
You're so sure that your crew's coming to get you?
They're lost without him, like a pack of dogs without a master.
Where'd they take him?
I don't know. Let me out of here!
Sure as God's vengeance, they're coming.
Coming this way, I've seen him. There's gonna be 30, 40 more guns out there now.
Monster, you in there?
Sorry, mister, but I'm not gonna die here today.
It's just you left, Dan. Just you and your boy.
This town's gonna burn!
Call them off.
Why should I?
Because you're not all bad.
Yes, I am.
You just remember that your old man walked Ben Wade to that station when nobody else would.